You're listening to Today on BBC Radio 4 with Michelle Hussain and Justin Webb. It's 7 o'clock on Friday, the 21st of September. The headlines this morning. Time 24 minutes past 7. Let us turn back to Salzburg, or what happens after Salzburg, after the fallout and the recriminations. Does it make it more likely that Parliament eventually will order another referendum, because the alternative is a disorderly departure that most MPs would not vote for? Yesterday, 2 European leaders told us they would like the UK to hold a second referendum. This is what Theresa May said in Salzburg about the chances of another vote.
I want to make my position absolutely clear, which is that there will be no second referendum. The government will not accept a second referendum because there has been a vote of the people. It took place in June 2016 and people voted to leave the European Union. I think there is of course, you've heard those voices that talk about a second referendum from Europe, that talk about a second referendum. Actually, others have, I think, now started to recognise perhaps rather more that this is going to happen. We are going to leave the European Union. So we will leave on the 29th of March 2019, and there will be no second referendum. We gave people their choice. People made their choice. It's the duty of me as Prime Minister, of the government, of politicians across the House of Commons to deliver on that vote.
That was Theresa May speaking yesterday. Let's talk to Gina Miller, the businesswoman, anti-Brexit campaigner for another referendum. She's here in the studio. Morning to you.
Good morning.
First of all, point that Stephen Crabb was making a few moments ago on the programme. The European leaders messed up things by seeming so obviously to humiliate Theresa May in a manner that, as he put it, rather makes people around the country think, look, if they're going to behave like that, we just want to get out as quickly as we can.
I'd love to know how many people around the country Stephen Crabb's actually spoken to overnight to make that comment, because actually if you go around the country talking to people like I have over the summer, all the way from Surrey up to Wales to Liverpool, Manchester, people are very, very concerned about the lack of clarity, lack of direction, and are really worried about the options and actually do want to have another say. And what they're saying quite loudly, and all the polls are showing this, is that we want a chance to validate what happens next.
Do you not feel, though, that, for instance, Donald Tusk posing with a picture of a cake and Theresa May,
that wasn't, yeah, it was childish. I absolutely agree with that. But what I would say is that
so they mishandled in at least the way in which they did it. You would accept that they mishandled it.
I would accept that there is a level of acrimony that's going on and frustration that, the EU has not moved. They've made it very clear where they stand, and that the UK has been so focused on its own infighting that we haven't actually been listening. We've had that it's not just Mrs May, it's the team as well. How could she have been so badly advised? I think it stinks of incompetence, the whole thing, when we have the moment of reality only 4 weeks away. How could we have got to this position? Now,
having got to this position, does it make it more likely then that we will get another vote simply because another referendum, simply because when it goes back to Parliament, there won't be a majority for anything else?
I can't see a majority for anything else. The Chequers deal, which is still Mrs May with fingers in the ears, still talking about it, there are no winners. Everyone is unhappy with it.
So if there is to be a vote in Parliament then, and another referendum, what would the question be?
I absolutely don't think it would be another referendum. It would be, it's not the same question. It's not in or out. My view is very strongly that the most democratic thing you could do is give everyone an option to vote on the 3 options, even though...
Hang on, the 3 options being what?
Being whatever the deal is that Mrs May comes back with, because I still think it will be Mrs May, no deal, and remaining. I think it has to be all 3 options, because there is something bigger than Brexit, which is how do we draw a line under this and move on as a country, because the divisions are actually very destructive that we're seeing up and down the country.
But those 3 options then automatically, for the 17-odd million people who voted, who thought they were voting for something and expect now to get it and would not get it with those 3 questions.
Yes, but they are not this. That's not what the polls are showing. That's not what the conversations are showing. what is showing that people from all walks, irrespective of how people voted 2 years ago, do want to have an option. They do want to see what the deal is.
And what do you say to Labour then, who are worried about that? Barry Gardner on this programme recently talking about people being, the potential of violence on the streets.
Again, go out. Who have they been talking to? This is all hysterical conversations being had. If you go out and talk to people are actually quite calm in the point of view of how they see this, and they do not see it as being a crisis. They say what they can see is that there's a lot of chaos going on in politics, and they just want this to be sorted out so they can get on with their lives.
What do you think the chances are of Labour coming up with it as a change at their conference? Because, as you know, there are many Labour supporters who agree with you, but the leadership,
and the
Jeremy
Labour
Corbyn
membership.
has said, they have said, we accept the result of the referendum.
Nobody is saying anything that nobody is saying that they didn't accept the result of the referendum.
They're trying to overturn it.
Who are?
But people like you.
No. When am I trying to overturn it?
By having another vote. We have a vote. That's the point. This is the point that many Labour supporters, this is the argument within Labour, isn't it, that we'll be seeing it.
So the day after can I just correct you there? The day after the referendum, I said we were all Leavers now, and that the Leavers had to deliver on the plan they made. I'm on record saying that. We are now 2 years down the road, 4 weeks to go, and there is no plan. And even Leavers are now saying that a no deal would be a catastrophe, and it would be so damaging for our country. Even people who are ardent Leavers have been saying that. So the choice now surely has to go back to people to say, yes, we accept that this is the direction of travel you wanted. Now you see where that will end up. You have every right to validate it. You do in every other walk of life. Why not with this most important decision?
But that's a different thing, actually, from the questions that you were proposing just a few moments ago.
Yeah, validating on all the options.
If it's yes, stay in, or leave, then you could make an argument for it.
No, I've said all the options. So because I think everyone, which I am arguing that it's a democratic right of people to have a say, then everybody has to have a say.
They had their say. That's the point.
Yes, but democracy is not one day. In that case, let's just not have another prime minister and let's not have another government. If we have one election, that's the end of it. That's not how democracy works. And this whole idea that you can't actually validate the options, to me, is just pure nonsense. It's not common sense.
Final thought about Labour. Are you confident then that Jeremy Corbyn will eventually come round, that Labour's leadership will eventually come round to your point of view?
No, it's not my point of view. You've got to listen to the country.
Well, and the point of view that you have just...
Yes, they have to listen to their membership, they have to listen to their unions, and they have to listen to the country.
And you're optimistic, confident that they will?
I think they must do if they believe that they are the proper opposition, that they say they believe in people's jobs in the future and ensuring that there isn't a damaging Brexit, then they have to.
Gina Miller, thank you.